There's really no point in me being cast in something and using it as an opportunity to bash ideas around non-Black people's heads. I'm not in the business of that. I'm in the business of taking care of my culture first. It's me second, and everyone else will feel the ripple effects. Find my power, stand in it. Some hoots and hollers.
Beautiful melanin goddess that's before me. Hello.
On this episode of Another Act, I sit back down with Lashana Lynch, who stars in the new James Bond film, and we get into her role as a Black female 007, how she helped shape her character, and what she thinks should happen next in this very popular film franchise.
Lashana, so great to see you today. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I am admiring this setting. You have the king behind you. You have the perfectly placed frames and the Funko Pops. I love it. Is that Arthur in the background?
It is.
Oh my gosh.
He's my favorite.
Literally same. No one remembers Arthur. I'm just like constantly.
I love him so much. So we actually met way back when, November 2019, when I was on the set for No Time to Die in London. And I walked away from that moment thinking how special it is that we get to see a Black woman as a 007 agent. Can you talk to me about what this feels like to be able to bring this to life, especially because I think it's going to be a moment not just for you, but really for so many of us, actually.
It's something that that is a constant reminder of being the vessel for something that is bigger than you.
Yeah.
And I have been encouraged of late by friends to really think about how hard I've worked and what it means. And, you know, you manifested this, et cetera, et cetera. And whilst those things are true, I think that because my four mothers and fathers have created such a foundation and enabled me to even be in this industry and to live in the world as freely as I do as a Black woman, I would be remiss to not mark this occasion as something that is a celebratory moment for them and a moment for us to really give thanks for coming from such a strong people and being able to present that on screen in such an incredible and long-running franchise, and being proud of the work, not being misrepresented, not being silenced, being able to be me and know me simultaneously in all our glory.
We talked about the idea of people embracing you in this role, and back then you said it initially didn't feel like an embrace, mostly because we're still dealing with antiquated thought patterns. Has that changed for you? I'm hoping that that's changed for you now.
Do you mean in terms of being cast, or do you mean, yeah?
In terms of, the response to these, Bond fans about you taking on this role, and now people are aware that you're 007 too.
The initial responses to me being cast were from thin air, and it was important for me to realize that in the moment and not take it personally, because this is not about me. Another Black woman, another brown woman would have been cast in as Nomi, and it really would have been the same thing. They're not responding to the individual, unfortunately. They're not caring about the actor's feelings in the moment. But now, because the trailers have come out, the film is now coming out, the world is now getting an opportunity to learn what the power of this Black woman means, an educational moment for me to present almost like a documented version of everything that everyone in the world should have learned a long time ago about representation on screen. And also I get to represent myself as someone who cares so much about getting it right so that my culture is proud, and that the people who have no clue about my culture are getting an education, like I just said. Yeah. It's important that happens at the same time. There's really no point in me being cast in something and using it as an opportunity to bash ideas around non-Black people's heads. I'm not in the business of that. I'm in the business of taking care of my culture first. It's me second, and everyone else will feel the ripple effects. That should be the natural order of things. And because that has happened with this, I think a lot of people that had a lot to say a couple of years ago may find themselves retracting their statements, which is also a powerful thing.
And that was, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but that was also something that you contributed to the character, right? Because I don't think that she had that that background before your casting, or did she? Was she always going to be Jamaican Black British, or was that something that you helped bring to the conversation?
So I didn't make her Jamaican Black British, but
Okay.
I had conversations with Carey about there being what her disguise would be when she's in Jamaica, what would make the most sense. There was absolutely no way as a Black Jamaican woman, I'm going to be in disguise in Jamaica and not do an accent. Like,
right. I love that.
It's never gonna happen.
Right.
So it was nice that I was there with my mom and we discussed the scenes and what I should say and what makes sense, because I'm not speaking in patois, I'm speaking in British English words in a Jamaican accent. And I wanted to be as authentic as possible while still honoring the fact that Nomi, I've never had that before. And it's with a white director, like with non-Black director. So power.
Yeah, you know, and I love hearing that story specifically because, you know, this is such a huge franchise, and to hear that you have the confidence to go in there and be vocal about the direction you thought the character should go in, it feels courageous to me in a lot of ways. I don't know if that's what it feels like to you, but I would love to hear you talk about where, you know, your courage comes from, you know, and just being comfortable enough to speak up effectively for a culture and for representation and a film franchise specifically that's as beloved as James Bond is.
Good question. My mom don't play. She didn't raise no fool, and she gave me a big mouth to speak on the things that make sense. Whatever doesn't make sense, I find it very hard to not say anything. And that's not to say that I've always been able to speak up for myself. I've very much had to learn as the years have gone on what that feeling is when someone's not listening to me. Why am I feeling so anxious? Why am I feeling nervous to say anything? Who do I even go to? There's no protocols, there's no handbook as to how to exist as a Black woman in a space that's not carved out for you. But once I realized that that anxiety was coming from quite a dark place, and it wasn't because of anything that I've done myself, I realized that when I finally spoke up for myself, even a little bit, that anxiety diminished. And I thought, okay, cool. So I can just speak my truth. And then internally, I'm just feeling good. And I want to feel good, and I want others to feel good. And if I have to be the fall guy for something that makes sense for my whole culture or my sex, then I'll just have to take that up for a second and just bear the brunt of it in order for the greater good to come to pass. So it was a long process of years of not knowing how to do it, but there's plenty of Black women in this industry that have imparted great knowledge, both of my generation and older generations. And we've all, I think, guided each other in a way that helps us feel empowered and helps us make them see us. Make them give us a seat at the table. And in fact, bring your chair and sit at that table and make sure that your voice is heard.
I don't know what it's like in the UK, but here in the States, especially Black people, when we go to the movie theater, it's like a call and response experience. And it is challenging to watch you in this movie and not constantly yell out, you know, yes, girl, go. I had to fight it down myself. And I was thinking about that as I was watching, like, I don't know if my cousin's going to be able to maintain when watching this film, but have you been able to really wrap your head around how colossal just the image of you and Nomi is going to be for all of us who consume this movie at the theater, which also is a new experience because people are just now getting back out to the theater now.
Oh, yeah, well, I'm so happy that experiencing Nomi in the cinema is like a lot of people's first cinematic experience for 2 years, say. That's very exciting for me. I have thought about there being some hoots and hollers in the cinema. I want that to happen. I want people to be like, gosh, I have to see the film again because the reactions, I couldn't hear the next line after that, and it got a little complicated, it got a little hazy. There was some like, there was some disruptions. I think that's healthy, actually. This is our moment. And we're reclaiming time that we haven't had before. And I think that if anyone's going to silence us in a cinema, then it's just indicative of what we're being silenced like in the world. So let us live fully and truthfully in the cinema, please. Let us have our moment, and then go pay for another ticket so you can see the film in the way that you want to see it. But right now, let's just live unapologetically when reacting to Nomi, because we deserve it.
Yeah, you know, one thing I was definitely telling people who are really excited about this movie is that this film reminds you of how much fun it is to go to the theater and watch a movie. Like, it's really designed for this, you know, kind of communal experience too.
Yes.
And I think people will really appreciate that. Now, you can't possibly answer the question I'm going to ask you next, but I'm going to ask it anyway, because it's the thing that I want to have happen. I know what I would like to see from Nomi in the future, but what about yourself? I mean, I'm hoping that, you know, we're going to see her in the universe, in the Bond universe at some point later. I wouldn't mind seeing her as, you know, Jamisha Bond. I don't know, you know, like something like what can you tell us?
Jamisha, you better come through with them names. Well, you actually saying that, Jamisha Bond, it would be nice, firstly, to honor her blackness and actually give her, if there is going to be a black female Bond, to give her her name, her rightful name, right? That would be one thing. But also, even if they don't replace Bond with a woman, maybe there's a distant cousin or someone else that comes through who has, you know, when like there's the child of, or there's the best friend of, that's for me sometimes makes more sense than the replacement of, because you're now allowing that person to live truthfully in what they are creating for this long running franchise, instead of trying to uphold something that the world know as one thing. We then have to allow audiences to catch up, especially non-Black audiences, white misogynistic type audiences, to wrap their head around the idea instead of buying into the character straight away. And I don't think that's quite fair on the actor. So the whole, you know, female Bonds, Black Bonds conversation is nice, but because there's going to be such a focus on their sex and their race, I just don't know how we can go around that without discussing it. But discussing it is weighty. So I would like to think that filmmakers can just be really inspired by there being a Nomi in the Bond franchise, and take those millions of stacks of scripts on the shelf that have been, you know, left by the wayside and not funded, and fund them. You know, give the Black female something else. Give her her own franchise. You know, let her be a rival for other franchises. And also, if you think from a business perspective, you're only going to earn tons of money from it because Black narratives sell.
How about that? I couldn't have said it perfectly myself. Thank you so much for taking time out to chat with me today. It's always great to talk to you.
You too. Thank you so much.